Today's episode of The Receivables is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, where from Tuesday, September the 7th, Tuesday, not Monday, because of Labor Day, at 11 a.m. East Coast time, until Monday, September the 13th, at 10:59 a.m., you can save up to 15% off of played and heavily played foil Magic singles. All right, let's go to the website. Let's see what we put on the graphic this time. All right, I got an Urza Mine for you Tron fans out there. Which, respect, I used to be one of you. Celestial Colonnade for Shaheen Sarani and Company. Disrespect, I've never been one of you. Exploration for you Lands fans out there. Respect, I used to be one of you. And Baneslayer Angel, which I have cast a time or two, but I'm kind of indifferent towards the card. That's just 4 of the cards that are 15% off that are played and or heavily played over at StarCityGames.com/sale, SALE. This is your unfriendly reminder to just bookmark that page because we got new sales coming every single Monday at 11 a.m. East Coast time. The website again, StarCityGames.com/sale, SALE. Save some money off of some beautiful foils, played and heavily played. Today's episode of The Receivables is also brought to you by Coalesce Apparel and Design, the #1 store for Magic the Gathering inspired apparel. If you're on the hunt for very awesome Magic inspired shirts, hoodies, and stickers, be sure to head over to coalesceapparel.shop. Browse the wares, and if you find something you like, use gift code SCG to get 10% off at checkout. Again, that's gift code SCG to get 10% off at checkout. Coalesce Apparel and Design, no one made what they wanted, so they made it themselves.
What's up, everyone? Justin Parnell here.
Along with Ryan Overturf, and we want to tell you about the single best podcast on the SCG network.
Well, obviously, Ryan, you're talking about the 540.
Indeed I am, and that is the best podcast because we talk about the best format in the history of Magic.
Cube Draft?
Cube Draft.
Every week we go over all things Cube.
We're talking about in-depth reviews of brand new cards.
The best ways to draft and think about Arena and Magic Online Cube formats.
As well as ways to play with your friends.
And ways to play with your enemies.
Also some ways to make your friends into your enemies.
And cardboard takes of a variety of temperatures.
So if you're a fan of structured nonsense.
Or if you hate it.
Either way, all the same, check out the 540 every week wherever you find your podcasts and right here on StarCityGames.com.
Coming up next, Wither, Persist, Conspire, Hybrid Mana out the wazoo, and for better or worse, the untap symbol. Shadowmoor. Okay, let's go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Receivables podcast, here hosted by the wonderful people over at StarCityGames.com. Cedric Phillips, that's me, at Cedric A. Phillips, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, bunch of places you don't care about. Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain on Twitter and nowhere else. How the heck are you, bud?
Pretty good. Padres going to lose to a quadruple A Angels team tonight, which is a little disappointing. Earlier in the evening, I was finishing out a Modern League, naturally a 3-2, the only record that anyone can ever get. And
love that.
I played against someone whose screen name I didn't recognize.
Okay.
They were playing Hammer. They rinsed me 2-0, not close at any point. And in game number 1, I attacked with an Eidolon, where like life totals were like me at 4, opponent at 18. I'm locked by the Eidolon and just like attack for, just no reason. Opponent tanks and no blocks, and then I concede. And then about 10 minutes later, I get a text from Nick Miller saying, I just saw you on Dilks' stream. Get in for 2. Get in for you're no reason to attack with the Eidolon. I just love it, So I'm glad. I hope that I provided some joy out in Twitch world tonight.
Nice, man. You're just doing some good work out there.
Mm-hmm.
Made him tank, so that's something. Made him tank for quite a while, probably way too long.
He was probably just telling a joke on a stream before not blocking or whatever.
All right, fair. Yep, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. We're doing Shadowmoor today. We're working ourselves through Lorwyn block. We did Lorwyn and Morningtide over the past couple of weeks. If you haven't heard it, you should go back and fix that, because pretty happy with those episodes. And during the Morningtide episode, Patrick, we did had a brief conversation around best creature lands in Magic's history, because Mutavault was in Morningtide. So we talked about that. We talked about Mishra's Factory, Treetop Village, a couple others. One that we failed to mention, and this has been picking up a little steam on the old interwebs, is some people made some polls about what, inspired by the Resleevables, multiple people said, which is so kind. Best creature land poll of all time. Nominees appear to be Mutavault, and among them, Inkmoth Nexus, one that we left out of the conversation. Do you think that Inkmoth Nexus is the best creature land of all time? Because that's what's been winning most of the polls.
I think if you want the context of like it's a big card pool, or we assume that all the cards exist as they do, I think Nexus is the best choice. It's just the most synergistic. If you're talking about let's say raw rate for like standard level play, I think it's still Factory or Mutavault. Like if you went back in time in 1996 or whatever and printed Inkmoth Nexus, it would have been nowhere near as good as Mishra's Factory, just because the synergies weren't there. So it depends on how you want to answer the question. I think Inkmoth Nexus is a respectable answer. It might be the right one, but it's sort of, a lot of the stuff is what lens you want to look through.
I'm still on the side of Mutavault. I really am. Shows up in a lot of decks, a lot of synergies, safe to print in other standard formats. Inkmoth needs a lot to go with it for it to be good, where I don't think that's true of Mutavault, and so that's why that's my lean. Maybe that's not a good reason, but that's my lean. I still vote Mutavault.
I think that's a totally fine reason. I mean, Blinkmoth Nexus isn't even in the zip code of the conversation. No. So if Inkmoth Nexus is, and it regularly appears in decks that have no other infect abilities, that's speaking to the synergies being the thing that carries it. But that's part of the conversation too. Like, you can't totally separate these things. Part of the reason that Mutavault's in the conversation is because of Lord of Atlantis.
Absolutely.
So again, it's just what lens you want to look through. I don't think there's like a clear, just in terms of raw rate, this is obviously the best one. I think all the ones in the poll are respectable answers. And so it's just an issue of, what are you optimizing for, or how do you assume the card pool looks, or whatever? Well,
we've got ourselves an interesting set in front of us here. Magic's 46th, I can't say words already, expansion. This is Shadowmoor. This is like the enemy or negative side of Lorwyn and Morningtide, kind of evilish, if you will. I'm very curious on some of your takes on some of these mechanics from this set. Like, extremely curious, because I already know, I have to imagine at least there's one that you really despise, but I'm very interested in the reasons why, and if this particular mechanic could ever be done again. But that's a little foreshadowing, because I got to go over the facts real quick. Released on May 2nd, 2008. This means that I have I know exactly where I was at this time. I'm going to let you go first. Do you remember what you were doing in the middle of 2008? If you remember any Upper Deck stories at this time, if you were even still there, I don't really remember. What is Patrick Sullivan doing in May of 2008?
So we're ramping up to the point where I'm about to leave Upper Deck, by which I mean Konami is about to pull the Yu-Gi-Oh! License from Upper Deck for printing counterfeits so bad that they were immediately caught, which I don't know if I've told that whole story yet. I assume that
I believe that you've told at least pieces of that story.
We can do a deeper dive on that if you want to. I'm basically playing no Magic at this point. I might have PTQ'd once. I might have drafted the set once or twice on Magic Online, but just the combination of the set really didn't speak to me, and sort of feeling like, well, I don't really have the time or inclination to be traveling to Grand Prix. I can't honestly say I'm trying my hardest to qualify for the Pro Tour. And so what am I really doing here? Especially if I'm not really enjoying the sets very much. So I'm on a bit of a hiatus Magic-wise. Probably one of the longer stretches of my entire life. And just, working my job, partying a bunch, kind of just like happily out of the loop with Magic at the time.
Okay. Well, my life is very different at this point. Much different than it's probably been at any point that I've been telling this aspect of myself during the podcast. So May 2nd is when this set came out. So let's just call it May/June. Okay. Since I've returned to college, I've made it back through my, we'll call it my second junior year at college since I dropped out during my junior year. So I've gone back. I've done it again. I've made it through, and I've gotten an internship for the summer because my major at Purdue, hospitality and tourism management with an emphasis in restaurant management, you have to do a summer internship with a company for credit hours or whatever, right? So I do it with TGI Fridays inside of Cedar Point. Are you familiar with Cedar Point?
Like a Six Flags, like an amusement park?
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
an
thing?
amusement park in Sandusky, Ohio, about 40 minutes from where I grew up. It's huge. It's a fantastic amusement park. Super awesome. If we ever take another trip back to the land during the summer, assuming you like roller coasters, which, I don't know if you like roller coasters. Do you?
I do.
Was that a no?
No, that's a yeah. I do.
Oh, okay. Well, if you like roller coasters, this is a plus place to go because they have I don't know where it stacks up nowadays or anything like that. And also I remember it fondly because I grew up near it and would go to it in the summer sometimes, but just chef's kiss amusement park. Okay. So I'm going to be one of the back of the house managers for the summer as my internship. Okay. So I get this and I'm really happy about it. And they tell me my pay and it's like $14 an hour or something. I'm like, that's game. I'm getting paid so much money. Okay. And then I learn why this internship may have been available. So the TGI Fridays inside of the Cedar Point is the highest business volume Fridays in the world. So what that means?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what that means is basically everyone in the park, when it's super busy over the course of the summer, most people with their families and their kids go and eat there. And so I was back of the house manager during the night shift 6 nights a week. Maybe 5. We'll say 5 just for safety, but I'm pretty sure it was 6. And I would work from 4 p.m. until the restaurant closed at midnight. And then you had to clean the restaurant every night. So I wouldn't leave until about 1:30 every night. Okay.
Okay.
Now, let's also throw in this. Cedar Point was far enough away from my parents' house that I was going to stay on the campus, quote unquote, during my summer internship. And so I can't confirm this, but I won't deny it either. I believe they took an old prison and turned it into rooms for the people who work at Cedar Point.
We talked about this on a previous episode. All American architecture is prisons and things you can turn into prisons. So this is not surprising to me at all.
So, and you gotta remember too, this is a thing that people for the summer would do for their internships or just people who just need a job, right? And Sandusky is close enough to Toledo, it's close enough to Cleveland, and it's close enough to people in Michigan that that was the group of people. So you got people coming down from Grand Rapids, Detroit area of Michigan, Flint, all this other stuff. You got people from Cleveland and its suburbs, and you got people from Toledo and its suburbs. That's your mix of people, okay? It's a pretty diverse mix, and everyone is looking to do a couple of things. Work during the day at the park as either someone who, if you've ever seen the movie Adventureland or any amusement park movie ever, this is what they're based off of, right? You've got people who are just working the rides, who are in their late teens, early 20s. You've got disgruntled managers who can't believe this is what they're doing with their life, but this is what they're doing. Everyone is looking to, after work, get super drunk and or hook up. And that's the summer. Okay?
Yeah.
But person in college who's decided, because my parents want me to take it seriously, and also I'm working every night from 4 until midnight and then getting home at like 1:30 or 2 and stink like a restaurant, don't get to partake in any of the fun. Ever. So this was my entire summer, was just dragging my ass in there, working, sweating. I lost 32 pounds over the summer working.
Must
is
not
like,
have been eating much of the food.
well, you eat it and it just melts off because it's so hot and you're just on your feet for 8 hours at a time. And it's like, dude, like, am I actually like, do I have to like actually work this hard? It's like the manager. Well, it's like, it's for my internship. So yes. And it's like, I was like the back of the house manager during my shift there. There were other managers that were, of course, above me to make sure the restaurant went well. But like, you know, they would just kind of handle the front of the house. And like, that's what I was hired for, was to handle the back of the house and like, you know, the chefs and everything. And have you seen the movie Waiting?
I don't think so.
Okay, you should. Ryan Reynolds, Justin Long, a bunch of other people. It's Dane Cook, who you probably think is horrible, but he's good in this movie. Anna Faris. For the people who've seen this movie and have worked in a restaurant, it's extremely funny and extremely real life. And so, yeah, I'm the manager that's in charge of all the characters in the back who don't want to be told what to do at all at any point, especially when we're getting orders out the wazoo for 6 straight hours. And then everyone's just like, all right, so where are we getting drunk tonight? And the way to appease people when I was working there was, if anyone's in a really pissed off mood, you bring them a Red Bull, or you just go, Red Bulls for the line. And everyone's like, hell yeah. And then they would just guzzle that battery acid down and be like, I could work another 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, I am in fucking the Twilight Zone, and I don't ever want to work here again. It's the worst job I've ever worked in my entire life. I don't know what your worst working experience is. Maybe it was the Kmart story you told, but wow.
No, definitely Cost Cutters. Cost Cutters was the worst.
Cost
That's
Cutters?
Like yeah, it was like a shitty New Jersey only Kmart that went bankrupt, I think, in like the early 2000s. But there was about 20 of these around New Jersey, including one in Hillsborough. And I worked there for off and on for some years during high school. That place sucked.
Here's how bad it got for me at this job. And this is why I remember this. So there was a weekend where there was a GP in Indianapolis. Okay. I think it was in June, maybe July. It doesn't really matter, where this was the newest set. And I wasn't playing any Magic at this time because I was just working every day. But I was like, I need to get away from this job badly. I'm barely making it through the summer internship. And I'm like, I just need to get away for a weekend. So I decide I'm going to go to a GP in India. I take the weekend off. I fly in Saturday morning to play in a PTQ.
Ooh, that is desperate.
With an extremely bad green-white Oversoul of Dusk block deck that I went 0-2-0-4 faster than I care to admit, and then got in the car with Tim Ayton, and he drove me back home.
Did you make your shift?
On Monday, I did.
Huh. Wow. But yeah. I mean, so what were you able to unlock with this like newfound wealth, right? Because I mean, one of the upsides is, boy, you're making like $600, $700, $800 a week or whatever.
Yeah, something like that, kind of.
So I mean, you got to be doing something with that.
Not really. If I'm being honest, like not really. Like it's just I don't have anywhere to go. So my summer was spent working, and then on the day that I had off, because Tim lives in Vermilion, which is like 15 minutes from Sandusky, Tim would come over, he'd pick me up, and then we'd go to, and this is, oh, baby, I remember this well. We would go to Chipotle, into Cold Stone Creamery for milkshakes, into back to his place to play Magic Online for 6 or 7 hours and watch Jeopardy, into him dropping me back off, and he's like, all right, I'll see you in a week. Have fun at work. That's all I spent my money on. That's it.
When Tim lived with me for a little while in Southern California, we did go to the Cold Stone a lot.
It's funny thinking about Cold Stone Creamery now, because do you remember how big of a deal that place was back like in the late like 2000s, early 2010s, like that was the ice cream joint everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that made me hate California, was how much everyone loved the Cold Stone. I'm like, I must be losing my mind. Losing my mind.
As I look back at it now, that place sucked.
Yeah, and the menu items are embarrassing to order.
Oh yeah, like it, love it, gotta have it.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, absolutely awful. And a lot of the time I would go there because like it was the place that everyone would go. And I remember like the first time I had the birthday cake ice cream, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then like you have it the third time and you're like, this is absolutely horrible. And then like the whole like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's not vanilla ice cream, it's sweet cream. And we can mix anything into it that you want. Gummy bears, wrenches, booster packs, whatever you want in your ice cream, we can do it. And everyone's like, this is the greatest place on earth. And now they're like all out of business.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really good lesson about game design. It's like, don't you just want people to do the thing they think they want to do? And it's like, no, a terrible judgment. No idea what they want. You need to give them a list of things to choose from and let them complain about the options they don't have and don't actually want.
And that you're never going to give them.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've learned over time. It's like, you know, the restaurants where there's like a million options or something. Like the place that like I think of immediately when I think of this is Mongolian barbecue.
Oh,
where it's like, we've got every vegetable. We've got all these sauces. We've got all these spices. Make whatever you want. And I go there and I have like decision paralysis because even though I've been cooking for 2/3 of my life and understand how everything fits together, it's like, I don't know. Can't I just fucking pick something? I just had a really long day. Can't you just give me something to pick? They're like, no, just make whatever you want. And then if my food sucks, guess whose fault it is? Mine. It's my fault.
I hate that shit. I absolutely despise the experience of, here's an array of items, you pick it all out and then proportion it, then you hand it to someone else and then they just like put it on the grill or whatever. It's like, if I wanted that experience, I would stay home. I could do that. The point is for me to sell.
You get to pay for it.
I want to point at an object and have someone else take care of it from there, you know?
And do literally nothing else. You want me to get up and pick my food? No,
I don't. I absolutely do not. I actually don't even like it when they ask me how I want my steak prepared. It's like, you tell me. You just pick. You pick. Just bring it out. I honestly, I don't care. Everyone thinks they care. They don't. It would be fine anyway. Just whatever makes sense to you. I guess rare because that's the fastest. So yeah, not lost on me. I hate that shit. I hate all that shit.
Yeah, man. I'm like the most anti Cold Stone person ever. Now, like during that time in my life, I was going there and just sucking down milkshakes. I don't look back on that fondly at all. But that's what I was doing during 2008, and I'll never forget it. My last day there, right? And no one who I worked with would ever listen to this because they all thought I was a fucking loser anyway, which is fine. But the people I worked with, like, I learned a lot about myself and how to talk to people and treat people in working environments and everything. It was actually a really great experience, even though it's the worst job I've ever worked in my entire life. I've never sweat so much and smelled so bad over the course of 2.5 to 3 months. But I remember the last day, boss's name was Jeremy. And he's a pretty nice guy. And he was fine enough at the job. But you could tell he was the guy who was just like, I can't fucking believe that this is 30, 40, and probably early 50s for me. Just this every summer, right?
Huh.
And he just goes, can't wait to have you back next summer.
Yeah, buddy. Not happening.
That'll
never happen.
Here's my garb, and I'm never walking through these doors again. Ever. Yeah.
Never, not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. If that happens, I'm going to come back here with a gun and one bullet, and you pick. No chance. There's no chance. There's no chance I'm working another summer here. No chance. Absolutely no chance.
My feet have never hurt as much as they did in that job. I was chewing a leaf like candy when I was working there because my feet hurt so much.
You got to understand from Jeremy's perspective, the hope of you coming back is the feeling that this is not just hopeless. Like, this is a career arc for someone who's going to college and has aspirations of really making a name for themselves in this industry. And if they come back, that suggests to me the possibility that I too, by sticking it out here, could eventually be promoted to a job that isn't makes me smell like old steak when I go home watching these 19-year-olds just bang each other and do drugs all summer long.
Because that's what it is. That's literally what it is.
Right.
That's what it is the whole time, man. I can't even. I can tell you, I can't believe I probably have never had the conversation with like working there. Just the things that I saw while I was working there, it's like unfathomable. Just like, the walk-in, you just walk in, you walk in the walk-in, and there's just two people. It's like, guys, we are in the middle of a rush. This is not a great time to be doing this. Please.
Yeah.
Someone stole a gallon of milk and hoped not to get caught. And then when I was doing inventory, I was down a gallon of milk, found the person who took it, and he was like, I was just really thirsty. I'm like, if you just ask. If you just ask. Also, you want milk while you're hot and sweating and covered in everything? I don't even want to yell at you, but I have to because that's what I'm paid to do. Damn it. It just was too much. It was too much. And I actually really, really miss working in restaurants. So much. Because it's so fun if all the people are awesome.
Can't you moonlight or bartend or something like that?
Can I or did I?
Can you? Now, I have to imagine you could walk into a sports bar in Seattle and be able to pick up a couple hours in the evening or whatever.
You know, I honestly have thought about that. I really have. So when I got like my first big kids adult job here in Seattle, when I was selling just advertising that did not work for a lot of money, I was losing my mind. I was coming to my wit's end of like, I can't believe I'm doing this because this is so shitty. I feel so bad about it that I went back to the Red Robin that I was working at. And I was like, yo, can I get some night shifts? And they're like, didn't you get a real job? And I'm like, I hate everything about it and I hate myself. Can I please get some night shifts? And they were like, sure. And that was the best part of my day. So I would go in and work the horrible advertising job from 7 until 4. And then I'd go work at Red Robin from like 5 until 9. And I'm like, dude, I just love serving these kids and singing the stupid birthday song and giving people balloons. I just love it.
Yeah, it's okay to, I don't know, you grow up on this stuff. You picked it for a reason.
Dope. Serving's dope. Working in restaurants is dope. Like, it's like if you're good at it, it's fun. And like when you get busy, the time goes by fast. And it's like playing a video game of like, can I make these 6 tables happy all at once? And I was really good at playing the video game.
Yeah, you got a little like Frogger action or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And my brain moves like a mile a minute or something. So like I'm just really good at remembering what everyone needs. And you throw a little charisma in there. You focus on the kids when you're at the Dirty Bird. The parents just want a beer or a glass of wine and the food to get here pretty fast. And please don't let the chicken fingers be cold. I can do all that.
Oh, you know what? As a parent, you know what my big restaurant request is?
Talk to me.
When the drinks come out, do not put it in front of my child. Put them in the center of the table.
That's correct.
I'll disperse them. Just don't put it. That's just a recipe to be knocked over instantly.
Yep, immediately. So, it's really Red Robin plays. I mean, at some point we're going to get to this set, but we're just telling stories. Red Robin plays to kids really well. So they have like kids cups with lids on them and everything. And, if you're good, you got to make sure you put that lid on tight because that kid is tipping that cup over with regularity. You don't have to worry about that. Bendy straw, little kids cup with a lid, little little apple juice. One thing I learned right away, don't even ask the parents. Just water the apple juice down. Just put water in it too.
Of course. Yeah, do not ask.
Don't ask. Yeah. Just half apple juice, half water. Because that's what they're going to ask for eventually during their stay at the table anyway. So I'm just like, hey, I'll put a little water in the apple juice. I know it's pretty sweet. It's this Mott stuff that we get out of the spray gun. They're like, thank you so much. No problem. I'm here for you because I'm a server. So I am here. It's not hard. And it was fun.
I'm glad you found something that you enjoyed. I basically just bounced around from shit retail job to shit retail job until I was at Target. And then, the rest is history, I guess, sort of. I don't know. Just fell backwards into this career now that I more or less enjoy.
You sound so enthusiastic about it.
it's been, it's we're coming on 20 years. It's been a long time.
When this all-
When I keep
No, go
looking
ahead.
at the years, I'm like, oh my god, it's actually close to 20 now. Been doing this for.
Yeah, man, I've been doing this coverage stuff this is year 9, and I'm just like, I just kind of fell ass backwards into this. But if it all goes belly up at some point, and who knows what competitive Magic is going to look like in a year or two from now, just give me the blue jeans and the dirty blue shirt. I'll go back to the bird. I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You want that bonsai burger, some pink cut in half? I got you. Free fry refills? I got you, teenager who's not going to tip me. I don't even care. It's fine.
I would have to come up with some new scam. I think it would be teaching at a college. That's my next scam. So, okay. Do we want to actually unpack the whole Yu-Gi-Oh thing?
I'm going to say that the people want you to unpack the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. So I'm going to take the lead as host here and say, let's do it. But right after this, real quick, okay? This set has 301 cards, 121 commons, 80 uncommons, 80 rares, 20 basic lands. Mythic rares do not exist. This set was codenamed Jelly of Peanut Butter and Jelly Donut. I'm going to let you tell this before I make you lose your mind about the untapped symbol. So,
oh god.
Go ahead. It's in this set. This is the thing I can't wait to hear you talk about. So go ahead and tell your Yu-Gi-Oh story, because we haven't really told an Upper Deck story, a meaningful one, in a couple weeks.
All right, so buddy of mine works in sort of the creative end of the company, working on new licenses and whatever. And he has put in his 2 weeks notice. He is moving on to greener pastures. So we're talking, and he says, I'm not at liberty to say anything just yet, but you're going to want to keep your resume fresh, and you'll know what I'm talking about when it happens. It's like, okay, that's ominous. Sure. So, as the story goes, what would happen a lot of the time is we would Upper Deck would distribute a bunch of packs, to wholesalers and to stores across the country. They would get sold, but not always. There's a concept in called sell in versus sell through. Sell in means it went to us, to a wholesaler, or to a retail store. And sell through means it went from there into a customer's hands. So sometimes we'd sell in, but we wouldn't sell through. Or we would be left with a little bit of inventory at the end of the set or whatever. So we'd go and we'd do a little repack where we would take some packs, we'd put them in a tin, maybe with a special promo card, and turn it into like a holiday release or whatever. Something Magic doesn't really do. I don't know if it reflects well on the brand or not, but whatever. It was something that Yu-Gi-Oh did, and it was fine. And one year, a wholesaler was like, I'm just stuck with all this shit. Now the packs aren't moving, the tins aren't moving. And this wholesaler's pretty frustrated. And they're looking at taking a bath of like low 6 figures, So what's our response to this? Do we tell this person to eat it? Do we find a way to make them whole on their $200,000 of seal product they're sitting on? Or do we surreptitiously go to China, find a factory that will print counterfeit copies of our most valuable cards, give the counterfeits to this wholesaler so they could put them into a tin and allow them to repack it that way? You might ask, well, why would you risk a multi-billion-dollar license over this retailer who is sitting on a couple $100,000 worth of product? Why wouldn't you tell this person to either eat shit or find some like off the books way to make them whole or whatever? I don't know. Didn't work on Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't work on this arm of the product. So all this gets revealed eventually. Because these counterfeits are put into products and then released on the street, and the counterfeits are so bad that Konami immediately has a cease and desist put out, and then they're able to trace it back to us very quickly. And so at the time, my friend told me, like, keep your resume polished, whatever. It was at the point where like Konami had gotten a hold of us and was like, what the fuck? But before enough movement had happened where they were like made a public announcement and severed the relationship and all of this. So, I mean, that's really the whole thing. Was over a very small sum of money to make like one random wholesaler or one whatever distributor happy. And the court case, the documentation is really funny because there's just people that I worked with that were like, yeah, and then they went on a plane to China to like oversee the production of this, blah, 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 blah. So like people pretty low on the hierarchy, relatively speaking, knew what was going on. It wasn't just like, oh, the owner knows, or the owner and like one executive knows. It's like, no, this made its way down to people who were like lateral to me, who were like suddenly going to China to like supervise the printing of these counterfeits. And then they were just really bad, just very easy to identify as counterfeits. They didn't even look like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It's not even like the magic ones where it's like, yeah, this looks like a magic card, but if you know what you're looking for, if you put a jeweler's loop up to the green mana symbol on the back, you can see X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, these just looked like shit. These look like bad knockoff Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So it was like very easy to identify them as such, shut the whole thing down, and then it took very little time for Konami to figure out that it was actually Upper Deck who made these.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of the end. Because that was the golden goose, right? We had distribution for Yu-Gi-Oh! In North America, and we got to run organized play. Do you have any, like, I know it's rhetorical, you probably do. Do you have any idea how much money that is?
Give me that. Give me that.
To do jack shit. None of the design, very little of the advertising, whatever. The Konami, the studios out in Japan, they handled all that shit. All we had to do was send the boxes of gold to the stores, receive the money, and occasionally run some tournaments. That was it. And fuck the whole thing up over the shortest money. You know what I mean? And then pretty soon after that, that sort of precipitated the loss of the World of Warcraft license. And I can't help but imagine that Blizzard saw that we were willing to make bad counterfeits of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and maybe thought that was a one reason among many to pull the license. And I ended up fine. In the scheme of things, a lot of my colleagues not so lucky. And if you could have just kept the whole thing going, it would have never stopped. It would have gone on forever. Yu-Gi-Oh is still making a ton of money.
Just money flooded.
Money flooded. So much you didn't know what to do with it. So much that when I got to California, and no resume to speak of, like no salary history, because I was just working at Target as like my only job. They were like, "How about $4,000 a month?" And I was like, "All right, fine." I would have taken less than half that, but yeah, sure, $4,000 a month is fine. And they're like, all right, so, this is at a time where it wasn't clear that, my then wife and I were going to move out. And they're like, so we're thinking, we got to find some friends that we can like crash on their couch. And they're like, what about a hotel room just for months? And we're like, yeah, sure. And it's like, well, how are you going to get around? Because this hotel is like an hour from the 2 miles from the office. It's like, California's nice. So we could just walk every day, not a big deal. They're like, how about a rental car? How about a nice rental car? We were like rolling it. You know what I mean? They didn't give two shits. They didn't even know if they were going to offer me an internship yet. This is just how business was done in like 2004. You know what I mean? They could have kept that shit going forever. Would have never ran out. I would be going now. I'd probably still be over there. You know what I mean? But fucked it up over some bullshit money. And then, now, Upper Deck's still around. They actually had, an old, she didn't manage me, but like a manager kind of in that area. I just saw her on Facebook the other day. She posted like some job, listings for Upper Deck. So they're still doing their thing, but it's not like it was. Never go back. And the sports license too. What a heartbreak there, right? Because like sports cards are on fire. They've been for a while.
They're going insane.
And the last time I saw Upper Deck have anything, they were like they sent a solicitation out and like a press release for Major League Lacrosse cards. And I was like, I can't believe those are real. Like there's no, I mean, not in these are counterfeits because that's part of the range, but literally like what's the negotiation look like? How much would we pay Major League Lacrosse for the license? Was it like $10,000 or something? Just like doing it for the sake of doing it. And I'm in this sports card unboxing group on Facebook, and it's like people who complain about the secret layers, you have no fucking clue. It's like every 2 weeks, it's like, here's a new release from Panini. It's 5 cards and it's $450 for the box, and they just all sell out. You know what I mean?
It sounds probably minutes.
Instant. You can't get them if you wanted to. You can walk up to them with $450 in your hand. It's too late. You got to know someone to be able to get the 5 cards for $450. You know, and they pissed it all away. God, to think. I mean, if it wasn't that, it would have been some other crime. You know, that's the problem. It wasn't like that was the only crime, but so it goes.
I love it. All right. Instead of diving into the events with Shadowmoor, we're going to take a short break. You're going to listen to some advertising for about 60 seconds. And then we're going to talk about mutual friend of ours, Charles Gindy, winning Pro Tour Hollywood. BRB. Taking a quick break from the podcast to let you know that if you are looking to sell your Magic the Gathering cards, it has never been easier. And with a 30% store credit bonus and the fastest turnaround time in the industry, there is no reason, I say no reason, to sell to anyone else. Head over to StarCityGames.com/sell, SELL. You can find the multiple ways to be able to sell your cards to us. One, you can check our buy list, find the prices that you like, dislike. If you want to sell some cards that way, do it to it. You can ship your cards to us. We'll price them out for you. You can tell us if you're happy with that price. If not, we'll move forward that way. You can come directly to us in Roanoke, Virginia at the Star City Comics and Games. It used to be the Star City Game Center, but now it's Star City Comics and Games, a little rebrand there. We can sit down with you, price out your cards, all that jazz. Or, and this is the big one, if you have over 500,000 cards, that's a lot of Magic cards, or own a store and you want to sell some of your bulk, clear out some space there, well, guess what? We can come to you. More information over at StarCityGames.com/sell, SELL. And with that, back to the pod. All right, we are back. Pro Tour Hollywood, everybody. Or as I call it, Pro Tour No Shoes. You know why I call it that? I'll tell you.
I'm assuming you had no shoes.
I'll tell you. Pro Tour Hollywood was in a hotel in Hollywood, California. It was actually in Hollywood. It's not like, Pro Tour Boston or like Pro Tour like Boston and then it's in Worcester. No, this was an actual Hollywood in a hotel. And I qualified for this tournament. I think I talked about how I qualified last episode. Won some PTQ or something, as I do and did a lot. Right. So I qualified for this tournament. Whoop-de-whoop Hollywood, get the time off of work. And for the days that I would hang out with Tim Ayton on my days off of work, I decided very early on in the process that I was going to play fairies at this event. Okay. So Tim was like, well, let's just test the fairy mirror every day. He's like, let's just do it. I'm like, okay. So he and I, whenever I would come over, it's just fairy mirrors nonstop. Let's go. And I was starting to get really, really, really good at it. Okay. This is me. I'm like 20, 86. I'm 20, 86, 96, 2006, 22. Yeah, 22. And this is not the peak of my powers. Peak of my powers is probably 9 or 10. But like, I'm pretty damn good right now because all I do is play Magic. And like mentally, since I've gotten through the dropout and everything, and I've also gotten through this year of college, like I'm like, let's go. I can play any deck well. No more of this. Try to play a fringe deck well. Like, I'm just going to play the best thing for once at a PT, right? So I arrived to a pretty good deck list for this tournament. Now, as you'll find out in just a moment, I got 311th place. Why did that happen? I'll tell you. But this PT, and I'll get to Charles Gindy and the results of this PT in just a moment, I didn't wear shoes the entire weekend I was there because the hotel was connected to the PT site and the PT site was at the bottom of the hotel. So you literally just got in the elevator and took it down to the basement. And then that's where the PT was. And I'm like, well, I'm broke and I don't care about anything. So no shoes. So I quite literally played a PT in like a basketball jersey, orange sweatpants, barefoot.
I was there.
I know you were.
I have a recollection of this. Only LCQ stories, but yes. I think I do recall you having those shoes.
So you LCQ'd.
Yeah.
And did you lose playing for it, or did you concede, or what happened?
All right. So, actually, I guess I kind of had a deck built because someone played my grinder deck. I wish I could remember his name. Either a Spanish or Portuguese player of like some, like a name that I would recognize, came in like top 32 at the Pro Tour by deck list. So I must have worked on this at least a little bit.
Oh, so first, I remember this better than you do. First of all, do you remember the name of your deck?
Is it the Stone Tablets?
No, this was Rainmaker Red.
Oh, this is Rainmaker Red. Okay, great.
So this is Rainmaker Red, and our mutual friend and listener of the podcast occasionally, Mayron Latif, also played your list because he qualified for this PT with Spire Blue.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Spire Golem deck.
That's right.
So my tournament came to a pretty quick end. I think I got my second loss at round 5. Very embarrassing. Game 3 against Fairies. And their draw is a little awkward mana-wise. They have an island, 2 Mutavaults, and a blue-black dual land. So the game is, like, it feels like it's going pretty well for me. Mostly because my opponent is, like, can't play 2 spells in one turn very efficiently because of their mana. So I draw Magus of the Moon, and I'm like, holy shit, it is over. It's like, this thing resolves, and my opponent can't counter it realistically because, like, the Spell Sputter won't work, and, you know, they can't play any of the other real counters in this spot, and this is just going to be way too much, you know what I mean?
I think I know what's about to happen. I think I know what's about to happen to you, and I'm very excited.
So I play Magus of the Moon, the opponent goes, resolves, and they untap and tap their 4 lands and play Murderous Redcap.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Because I had this for the PT too. Hell yeah.
So they tap 4 lands and, like, put Murderous Redcap on the stack. I point at my Magus of the Moon, and they point at my Magus of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was just like, that was, you know, game, because like my deck couldn't beat a 4-mana 2/2 that actually resolved. But what was really great about that was Tim Eden, and I'm sure you know about this. He grinded in as well. I can't remember. He might have, maybe he played my deck, maybe he played Fairies. I can't remember. Whatever.
He grinded in with Sam Black's Goblin deck, and he conceded in the finals because he didn't want to play in the PT.
He conceded in the finals to someone he, like, didn't really know particularly well. And this is a grinder that's like 8 or 9 rounds, right? It's like,
it was all night long.
It's all night long, and you get to the summit of the mountain, and you're just like, yeah, I concede.
Mm-hmm.
And I go. I was like, Tim, what the fuck was that all about? It's like, why even play this thing? You didn't even really know that person. Like, why'd you concede there? And he goes, "This is the greatest thing anyone's ever said to me about Magic."
It's one of his greatest lines. It's one of his greatest lines of all time.
It's the greatest line of all time. Sometimes it's important to remind the cards who shuffles who. It's like, wow, that is an unassailable reason. Perfect. And then, then I watched the Pro Tour, I guess. I don't really remember. I don't remember if I even really hung out for that long during the weekend, but him dropping that line, that one sticks.
Memorable line. So yeah, this is PT no socks and shoes for me. This is also a PT in which I overate on one of the days to the point where my stomach hurt so much that I bought the Voss water that was in the room. And that's worth noting because the Voss water in the room was $12.
Mm-hmm.
But like I couldn't like get up because I ate too much for dinner or something. I just like couldn't stop myself. And I remember just like being up like 3 a.m. I'm like, everything hurts. Just give me the Voss water. And I was staying with Mayron. He's like, dude, I can go downstairs and get you water. I'm just like, just give me the Voss water. I worked this stupid, horrible restaurant job. I have the money. Just give me the damn water. And Voss water is not significantly different or better than any other water, but they sure act like they are. Other notes of this tournament. Okay, first things first. May 23rd to the 25th. Attendance 371. Winner, Charles Gindy with Golgari Elves. Other people in the top 8. Shuhei Nakamura with Elves. Makahito Morita with, let me make sure I remember this, with Revelark. Margin Liber. I know I'm saying that wrong because I always call him Marvin the Bear, which is not helpful. But look, Liber, you rule, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm getting your first name wrong right now. He was playing Gruul Ramp. I remember that deck very well. Snow covered, harmonized into the north. Kitchen Finks, Committing Colossus. Committing Colossus was a problem for the fairies decks. We'll move on. Paulo Vitor Domidarosa with fairies. Surprise, surprise. Couple of stories from this PT. I got 311th place. Okay, so I'm playing fairies. I figured out the red cap thing before the tournament. I run into Paulo during like, what's the day before? Like, is it like Deck Reg Day or whatever? What do they call that?
No, it's just like be a celebrity day. You just hang out.
It's like you just like register. You get like some booster packs, some food. They used to do that then, right? Everything else.
You
right?
watch the LCQ. Someone comes up to you. They're like, "What's your record in the LCQ?" And you're like, "I'm already qualified." You know, all that.
Thanks
all
for
that.
asking, but obviously I'm already qualified.
I'm already qualified. I'm not playing they won't let me play in the LCQ because I'm already qualified.
I'm already qualified. Yeah,
that's why I'm eating these French fries.
Yeah, I run into PV. I remember this only because like I really looked up to PV then. I was like, man, he's so good, and like he just travels from Brazil and like smashes these tournaments, and like that's expensive, but like he's so good, and he's like pretty quiet and mild mannered. And I knew he was going to play fairies because he always plays fairies. And I'm like, yo, man, like, you want to talk about fairies lists and stuff? And so like he looks at my list and then he like sees the murderous red caps in my sideboard. And he's like, why do you have these? And I'm like, Magus of the Moon. And I'm like, you know, for Magus of the Moon, like, because, you know, it kills. And he's like, you can't cast it. And I'm just like, your lands are mountains. And he goes, oh, man. And he immediately is just like, where can I get some murderous red caps? And I'm like, holy shit, I know something that he doesn't. That's unusual. I can't imagine this ever happening. So that felt like super good. So that's a minor story. Major story. Round 1, I play against Steve Locke. He's won a couple of Grand Prix over the past handful of years. Iowa player. Super good dude. Known him for a really long time. He's playing like this red-black, like Siege Gang Commander deck that was kind of surfacing on Magic Line around this time. Not a great matchup for fairies, but like I was kind of locked in round 1. I end up like figuring out a win, whatever. I end up winning the match, right? And I'm like, damn, that felt really fucking good. Like I won like a really hard couple of games against someone who's like really good and I respect, and I won. Cool. And because coming into this like tournament, I really wanted to play elves because it's more my speed, and fairies is less my speed. But I put so much time into playing fairies, I was like, I can't switch decks. I just got to do this, right? So round 2, playing the fairy mirror. And I win like a 35-minute game 1 that is super long. Okay? Bitter Blossom battles, all of it. And I just like play better than my opponent. And I'm just like, fuck yes. Like I am doing this. I sideboard in like my Warhammer for the mirror, all this other stuff. And my opponent's like, you know, sideboarding really quickly. And I'm like, hey, don't worry. I'll make sure that we finish. I don't know why I did this. Maybe it's because I don't like to play slow and not into doing things like that. But like, I play super fast in game 2 and game 3 and lose. And now I'm just on full blown. Because I'm like, I could have won the match 1-0 if I wanted to. Or at the worst, I could have got a draw. Now I have an L. Why did I do that? And like, I'm like, what's that?
You know the Benefell line about this.
Talk to me.
Benefell once said to me, if I win game 1 and lose the match, I have no one to blame but myself.
And so Tim, that's a great line too.
It's really good. Yeah, a lot of good lines out there.
So Tim is trying to console me because like you haven't really, as long as we've known each other, I don't think you've ever really seen me like super upset at a Magic tournament when I care. But like back in like 08, 09, like that time when I was like kind of all in on Magic, was super broke, and it was the only thing I wanted to be good at. When I lost due to something that was like my own fault, I would just fucking lose it. Okay, so Tim is like, hey, it's just one round, just calm down. It's gonna be fine. It's not that big of a deal. Just calm down. And I'm like, I can't calm down now. And so now I'm on like FBT full blown tilt in a way that it's like unsalvageable for really like not a great reason. Okay. So round 3, I play against Frank Karsten. Fairies Mirror again. Frank is better than me at Magic. I know that. But like, I've put a ton of time in, right? So we're playing game 3. I've got Commandeers in my sideboard, which is a card from Cold Snap. Most important thing about this is you exile 2 blue cards and you can yank a spell, a non-creature spell. So you can yank a Thoughtseize, you can yank a Bitter Blossom to your side. And it's a really over-the-top way to beat a Bitter Blossom in the mirror if everything lines up correctly. Okay? I felt like it was the best. I felt like it was the best thing to do that weekend. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but some people were doing it that week. Okay? It's kind of controversial if it was good or not. So playing against Frank, and I'm on the play, and I have a Thoughtseize. Excuse me, I'm on the play, and I have a Bitter Blossom on turn 2 on a mulligan. I have Commandeer with 2 blue cards and 2 lands. So I've mulliganed into an ideal hand. It's not perfect, but I've mulliganed into a good hand, right? So Frank goes, Thoughtseize you. And I'm like, yep. He's like, take your Bitter Blossom. And I'm like, what? Why did I do that? Why didn't I just commandeer your Thoughtseize? And then, he makes me discard a little bit and plays his own Bitter Blossom. And I can't commandeer because I don't have something happens with the course game where I can't commandeer it. And at the end of the game, he just goes, set. What happened there? And I'm like, Frank, I don't know. And Frank, he's the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And so Frank knows me. I believe he respects me. I would never say that I'm better than Frank, but he just looks at me in this way that he's just like, what happened, man? What happened?
You're obviously not okay.
Yeah, he's like, you're supposed to commandeer the Thoughtseize and take a look at my hand and take a card, and it's worth it, the desired exchange. And then you take my Bitter Blossom, and then you're probably going to win. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't have a Bitter Blossom anymore because you took it. Now I can't win, and I kept this hand so that I could commandeer a Thoughtseize or a Bitter Blossom and play my own and be fine. He's like, get it together for round 4. I'm like, I'm not going to be capable of doing that. And the rest of the tournament went extremely bad.
It's interesting that you should bring this up because the Nationals where we played and you wouldn't let me Cryoclasm you?
You're damn right I do.
I got the same speech from Heezy after he and I played in the 1-2 bracket and I just punted on board. And he was like, dude, what's going on, man? It's I just don't got it today. Because it was a spot where it was drafted. It was I played an unsummon when he was tapped out inside of combat, where I could have just unsummoned the 5/5 that was in front of my 5/5 trampler and killed him, just on board.
Oh yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. Sure.
Sort of. Yep. And he was like, big dog, what's going on? It's I don't know. I think that deck's pretty bad. Cedric, I had 2 Cryoclasms in my hand. Just never played a land and flow up. I just don't have it today. I don't know what to say. Don't have it today.
I just lost it. After that draw round, I remember just losing it because I was so happy with how I played the first game in the mirror. I just grinded out a victory and ended the game probably at 2 life or something, the Bitter Blossom. I'm like, hell yeah, all the time was worth it. I'm 1-0. I'm up a game. I know how to play the mirror. I'm comfortable in the mirror because I tested it for so long. Then I chuck it away. With rushing and everything else because I want to be a good sportsman and finish the match. Arguable if that's a good thing or bad thing to do with pro tour level competition, whatever. And then all of the rest of it is just downhill. Just throw it versus Frank, throw it versus an Elves player, play against someone who's geared to beat fairies I have no chance against. And now it's cool, tournament's over. Great. Spent all this time. But day 2, what happens? Jerry T comes up to me and he's like, you should play this Kithkin deck in this block PT. I'm like, whatever, man. I don't want to play fairies ever again because I'm just on FPT. And that's where the Kithkin love affair began because I played that deck blind, never playing it before, made top 8 of the PTQ. And I was like, holy shit, this deck rules. It just never runs out of gas ever. I ended up losing in the top of the PTQ to, I think, someone Ian Bartholomew? Ian B?
Yeah, I know Ian.
Who I think went on to win the PTQ. He was really good at Magic, California player. And that's what I remember about Pro Tour Hollywood outside of Gindy winning, which I love, and I hope he's doing well. But this tournament stands out to me for so many different reasons, not even just the stories we told. But I don't know if you remember this time during Magic, but I remember it extremely well, where Fairies was the clear-cut best deck in Standard, non-negotiable best deck. But you could play other things, or you could be like some of the players who made top 8, which was play Revelark because you beat everything else badly, but you couldn't beat Fairies. And so did you want to take the gamble that not that many people would show up with Fairies? Because the Fairies mirror is extremely difficult to navigate. Fairies is a tough deck to play in a really general sense, even though the power level is really high. And you can go, yo, you're bringing elves, you're bringing elementals, you're bringing Kithkin, you're bringing like a bunch of nonsense, GL beating Revelarks and body doubles and sowers and all this stuff, and mole drifters that you can never ever beat. And if you want to go that route, or if you want to just go, yeah, I'm just going to figure out how to play fairies the best and I can just beat everybody and like, LOL, nice Revelark deck, you can never win. Gindy ultimately does win with elves, but that was kind of the metagame going in. And it was a very unique experience, at least in my estimation.
Yeah, and a lot of these tournaments and formats would be interesting to go back to with a tool like Arena. Like the metagames just get solved so fast now. And it's like, would everything that you just said be true, even with that level of scrutiny? Or would it be like, oh, this was fake the whole time? Fairies was obviously the best thing by a mile, and anyone who was not playing that was just fooling themselves, you know?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, but I just remember going into that event, like elves was fine. That's the other deck that I wanted to play. And I just remember Tim being like, nah, man, we're just going to stick with this fairies thing. And it's time for you to grow up and figure it out. And it's like, all right, that's fair. That's fair. There were some GPs in Brussels, in Birmingham, in Indianapolis, the GP that I mentioned. I guess I'll go over these really, really quickly. Shadowmoor Limited in Brussels, May 3rd and the 4th. All these tournaments are in 2008 for what it's worth. Attendance 1470. This one, the Magic attendance was starting to heat up by the Grand Prix circuit. Camille Corneliuson wins the event with a Demir deck playing Gaslord of Fugue, which was a really good card. Top 8 also featured Nassif, Raphael Levy, Antoine Ruel, and any other names. Alexander Bissett is a name I do recognize, and that's that event. Congratulations to Camille. Very, very good Magic player who we don't see anymore. GP Birmingham, block constructed, May 31st through June 1st, 581 players. Winner, first time this name kind of starts to show up in our podcast, Li Shiqian. Oh, yeah, with Kithkin. Top 8 also featured Jelger Vigersma playing Kithkin. Let's see, Jonathan Randall, Antti Malin, Remy Fortier, who was playing Fairies, Manuel Bucher, who was playing 5-color control, Chapin-esque, Raphael Levy playing Elementals. Really good top 8. But this format started to divulge into Fairies and Kithkin versus a little bit. 5-color control wasn't too bad, though. We also had a GP in Indianapolis. This is the one I went to on my break from work where I had to get away, June 21st and 22nd. Attendance, 1,124 players. Winner, Jelger Vigersma, mostly blue, splashing white and red. Also in the top 8, Dennis Rodriguez. I'm definitely getting that name wrong. Jamie Park, Ben Rasmussen, Ohio legend, in quotes, for people who from Ohio, specifically Columbus, who are listening to this, Randy Wright. I hope you all get a good laugh from that. Lastly, there's a GP in Buenos Aires, June 28th and 29th, attendance 580. Winner, Francisco Braga with Golgari Elves. This was standard. Top 8 also had Sebastian Pazzo, very good player. Actually did some coverage of him this past weekend, playing a Revelark deck. We had Olivier Ruel playing, looks like 5-color control. And I think those are the only names. So there you go. Those are the events. Now let's get into the mechanics. No break. We're just going right into it. Patrick, the untapped symbol.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah.
It's time to get into the untapped symbol. So for those of you who are unaware, creatures, when you activate their ability, they tap. Some of them have additional costs, mana, sacrifice a creature, who knows? In this set, they decided, you know, it would be fun if we had an untap instead of tap to activate stuff. So I'm trying to find a card. Here we go. Safehold Sentry. 1 and a white, 2/2. You could pay 2 and a white and untap it. Safehold Sentry gets +0/+2 until end of turn. Reminder clause. This symbol is the untap symbol.
Wait,
and
hold on. What is that text box?
It's the symbol of the untap symbol.
No, what is it? Sorry, repeat what that does again?
Okay. 2 mana, 2/2.
Yeah.
You can pay 2 and a white and untap it to give it +0/+2 until end of turn.
Oh, God. Okay.
See, so it's
All
a
right.
2/4. It's a 2/4 on defense. Do you see?
Or on offense.
Also that, yes, if they don't see it coming, I suppose. There were plenty of cards like that in the set. Some better than others. Some like Leech Bonder were key uncommons in the format. I do remember that. But we have not seen this mechanic since, if memory serves, and I'd be shocked if we ever saw it again. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident this one got dragged behind a barn and shot. Like we're never gonna see this one again. All right, so the charitable, like, what's the good thing that this keyword aspires to do? Is creatures with activated powers are fun, but occasionally they can engender a play pattern where your creature is not attacking or blocking. That kind of sucks. So what the untap symbol can do in some of the ideal cases is give you an activated power, but force you to put the creature into combat first to be able to unlock it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's at least identifying an issue that activated creatures have and trying to solve for it. I can't say if that's the inspiration for the mechanic, just that's the one positive thing going on. The downsides. 1, totally baffling. Doesn't make any sense at all. The flavor is like, what the hell is going on here? And it's so dissonant with just like the way Magic presents itself as an engine that they're just sort of befuddling at a baseline. They go infinite really easily. Like, if you graft like an activated power on these things, they just go infinite. So you have to develop all these around the acknowledgement that it's very easy for them to go infinite. And then also a lot of these untapping things, like what they actually mean in practice is just like a lot of onboard complexity, surprise blocking, that sort of thing. And in the case of the card that you showed, it's like it's inside of combat. It's like an onboard trick while it's attacking and also available as a blocker. So onboard complexity, baffling, just a really easy combo enabler that you have to tax all these cards around how easy it is for them to go infinite. It's really bad. This is really bad. Really bad.
I cannot imagine a world where we see this again. I really can't.
Was it an MH2 at all?
I'm going to check right now.
That's the place where you can give these perverts who like this sort of thing like a little bit of love. Make one design or whatever.
I'm going to go to MTG Wiki and see if I can possibly find this again.
It says a lot that I literally worked on this set and I have no recollection if it's there or not.
You worked on this set? Oh, you worked on MH2. Okay.
Yeah, MH2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the untapped symbol was introduced in Shadowmoor. By 2010, the introduction of the symbol was considered a failure. Players just read the untapped symbol as a tap symbol. As a gimmick, it was featured in Modern Horizons on Farmstead Gleaner. Okay. So it's been featured on one other card.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't even make it into MH2, huh?
Yeah, that one, never again.
Yeah, that one. One's really bad. Really bad. And it's the type of really bad that you could only come up with in like year 15 of a game. You would never come up with that shit. You would never come up with that shit in year 2.
And you wouldn't come up with it now either.
Right. Yeah, it's the exact right moment in time.
Well, let's dive into the other mechanics here. We got 3 other ones to talk about. Wither. Yeah. This deals damage, could be a creature, could be a spell, to creatures